So in this video, I am going to show you how I recreated this flyer that I found on Pinterest using a tool like Canva. So I did not save the photo, so I can't go back. I can't find who the original designer was so that I could give credits. But either way, I found it on Pinterest and I liked it. And so I wanted to show you, whoever's watching this, whether you are a beginner or super beginner or amateur or a professional, that it doesn't matter what tools you use. Once you understand the foundations and the theory and the background and actually what's happening here. So I am recreating a flyer that was most likely done in a professional um, tool like Adobe Photoshop, possibly, and showing you that how it can be done using a tool like Canva. Now, we know Canva is a big topic of discussion these days. Canva is giving non-designers all around the world access to uh, tools and resources to be able to design professionally. But it doesn't matter what tools you have, if you don't understand what it is that you're doing, you wouldn't be able to get these types of effects. But also, any professional designer would be able to tell you that it's not about the tool you use, it's about you being able to see and understand what's going on and apply what you see. So, the main thing I teach in my Canva class, I kind of try to break down the big topic of design theory. If you don't know what design theory is, it's a list of rules. Um, yeah, a list of rules that some people decided many years ago is what makes design good or bad. And if you go to school for it, they'll run you through the whole process and you'll start to understand better. But I was able to kind of break it down and summarize it in my own way so that I could teach people who don't have time to go and learn professional design what it is we're doing. So, in order to understand design theory in the most simple way, you have to be able to think in terms of layers, effects, and then outcomes. So, what I mean by layers, any picture you look at, any flyer you look at, it's built upon like layers. So, imagine you were painting on canvas. You would start with one color, start with one stroke, and just continue piling layers on top of layers. Well, in graphic design, because you're using a professional software or whatever you're using, and you're able to do it digitally, you're creating layers on top of layers that you could then go back and edit. So, unlike painting, where you would, create a layer and whatever you get, in order for you to change it, you may have to go over the whole thing. Using digital software like Photoshop or Canva, you are able to work in layers that you can go back into and edit without having to start over from scratch. So that's the first thing you need to understand is what makes up the layers. So every picture is made up of several layers. In real life, when you look out, anything that you see is three-dimensional, but once you take a picture, it becomes flat. Well, once you understand what makes up the layers, then you could break down anything that you're looking at graphically into layers and try to recreate those layers. And then the next thing I would say you would want to know is effects. So as we can see in the original photo here, there's some dynamics going on. It doesn't look simply flat. It looks like light flashes and different things like that. That's an example of effects. So once you understand what makes up layers, then you can understand what makes up effects on those layers. And then the final thing I teach is outcomes. Now, outcomes is just a broad term that I decided to use to explain that when you're designing, especially for business or for marketing or for whatever reason you're designing for, the main thing that you are trying to achieve is to communicate a message or a sensation or an effect on someone. And so once you know what the outcome is, what it is that you are trying to achieve, that helps you actually to be able to think and see and perceive like the person on the other end of the graphic, which is your audience, so that you could know what's important to them. So a lot of people, they design, but they don't think about things like outcomes. And when I talk about outcomes, I'm also talking about like what effect is the design that you created supposed to have on the person that's designing. Once you know that, then you will also know things like what words do you need to put, how do you need to display those words, how big do certain things need to be, what needs to have, I would say, what needs to have the most emphasis so that people would be able to get the message. And then another thing you would be able to think about if you think like that is how is the person on the other end of this graphic going to be able to, or going to see it? What is it going to be printed? Are they going to be using their phone? Which, majority of people now, they see your marketing or your graphics or your flyers on the phone. And so that would also help you to know what size fonts are too small. If I'm looking at a phone, you got to make sure that things are not too small, that people aren't going to be able to receive the message, or they're going to have to be doing too much zooming in, because all those kind of things distract people. But here I am. I successfully did it with my own information. And there you have it. I went ahead and I edited it so that it could look more like my branding. And here you go. Sign up for my upcoming class on April 15th, 2024. See ya.